Thank you, Ian, for sharing those gorgeous examples. Our final panel discussion will be on new technologies and trends in advertising. I'd like to call upon the moderator, Iqbal Al-Haddad, Vice President of IAA, to kickstart the session.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon. Well, it's nice to see these lovely faces and audiences. This is the last session. I think we've left the best for last. And again, I would like to thank you for being here. And I would like to introduce to the stage Mr. Nael Halabi, Executive Vice President of the Kuwait Publicis Media. And I would also like to present Mr. Nader Bitar, Senior Director of MENA Marketplace. And I would also like to present Mr. Ziad Azam, Sales Director of DMS. Talking about the new technologies and trends in advertising, and I think this is very challenging in terms of what's new. Everything's going at a very fast pace, and we really cannot keep track of whatever is happening. So we have all these three gurus here who do understand, and we're going to introduce a lot of new implementations, insights, things that we may not be aware of. And I'll be asking them a few questions, and they will be, and we would leave maybe at the end, one or two questions if you need to ask them, because I think it's going to be a very interesting presentation. So I'll start with you, Ziad. What do you think of the, can you give us an idea of the artificial intelligence? And what do you think, is it going, how fast is it going? How is it in the future? And where are going to be in terms of artificial intelligence?
Actually, I don't think artificial intelligence is going to take over the human work. I think it's going to be just to help users to facilitate our job, make it easy, and make it faster and more accurate. I think the artificial intelligence is going to take over the routine work, just like implementation, reporting, analysis, and so that human will focus more on tasks that requires creativity, strategies, planning, and problem solving. So I think human will be working more and more on with artificial intelligence just to facilitate their work and make it simple and more reliable. So this is what I think.
Nael, any views on this?
Definitely, I agree with Ziad. Again, the human element, especially in our field, is very crucial. We're again talking to people, we're communicating to people. So definitely, artificial intelligence is going to sort of help in terms of analysis, in terms of more efficiencies, accuracies. It will remove a load of the human factor in terms of sitting there and crunching all the numbers and the data. But again, the human element is always important because the communication is with people. So you always still need that factor, but definitely it's coming in, and it's coming in for a good cause.
Nader?
Hello, everyone. Let us just take one step before ahead, and just think about things from a different perspective. Artificial intelligence is not the Terminator 3. It's not the iRobot movies that you see, or the sci-fi movies. It's simply automating your daily lives, the way we eat, the way we move, the way we dance, the way we look at things, the way we work, the way we structure things. It's just automating the processes and not automating your intelligence. That's exactly what AI is. And the misconception of AI, everybody thinks of it, all the robots, all the machines, yes, machine learning is something that is growing massively in the world. It's the next big thing. It's the Fitbits that you have on your wrist. It's the way you work. Your computers are automating things, but it's not going to be dominated by by robots. And as the panel said, yes, we still need the human factor. Otherwise, we shouldn't be in this room. We still need the intelligence. And the sci-fi movies are just motivating us to, to move ahead with technology. And yes, and post-2000, things evolved massively. And this is where artificial intelligence work closely in our daily lives, at work, in the industries, in advertising, and that's why we are here today.
But I still think that in the industry, especially manufacturing and so forth, they have really gone heavy in terms of artificial intelligence.
Definitely. I mean, machinery, companies, car manufacturers do need machines. And at a certain extent, machines are taking some of humans' lives. But it's mainly, you have to think about artificial intelligence as a set of processes that is fed in. It's not I'll just give you a quick example. If you ask a machine, if there are machines, let's say, that communicate with and interact with people, and if you ask that machine, are you hungry? There's maybe in machines. There's no yes, there's no no. Are you hungry? The machine would say, well, it depends. You want to go out? Well, it depends on the weather. You ask a human, yeah, I could have another burger. Yeah, I could eat. No, I'm not hungry. So that aspect of emotions is still needed. Now, in manufacturers and factories, yes, machines are just replacing the hard labor, but you still have humans behind it feeding that process, feeding that data, feeding that algorithms, and you need computer scientists, you need smart people, like everyone in this room, so yeah.
So again, human element is something that we can never give up on.
Definitely.
Okay. Moving on to what is the future do you see in terms of the traditional versus digital? And when I go digital, we're going to include social media. This is something I think many of the media planners have really, it's very hard for them to decide. Let's say maybe 10 years ago, it's very easy for a media planner to work on the plans, choose the newspapers, magazines, radio, TV, they're all there, and it's very easy. I have a plan, I know the frequency, I know the duration, I know the whole campaign. I go home and I'm fine. But now it's 24/7. So how do we handle traditional versus media, versus digital media, and how big of a scope is this digital media taking over the traditional media, and how much weight? I mean, is it taking over? For question one, and two, where is it going?
Now, traditional media, all right?
Or offline, if you want to call it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, for offline versus online, all right? Offline media, as we know it, takes a big chunk of media today. So as per 2015 Nielsen's report says, the ad spend in MENA region, the ad spend is around $5.5 billion. Digital was around 10% in 2015. Last year, they released the numbers. The spend is over 5.5 billion, and digital is around 12%. Digital is growing massively, and TV is still dominating. Newspaper and offline magazines and publishing business is declining. Digital is going massively in the trend of our businesses day to day. That is because analytics are becoming into the picture, data is coming into the picture. I don't want to say it's getting into the picture, it's in the picture, and this is where the mindset of advertisers and marketers in this room should think about businesses in a way that data revolves around our businesses. And when I say data, it's not emails, it's not names, it's behavioral data. Today, advertisers want to target the right user at the right time and the right environment. That's exactly where we should be looking at. And it's all about how we interpret data. If you look at the big four companies or the Googles, the Facebooks, they all tell you that we need talent to be able to interpret that data. And interpreting data is very hard. At MENA Marketplace, it took us 18 months to extract a small portion of data out of our publications that we work with across the MENA region. It's not an easy job.
So it's not just data or information, it's rather the analysis behind it.
Yes, not at all. It's not the data, the emails, the numbers. It's more on the behavioral. What is that user doing on that publication? What is he reading, he or she reading? What sort of expectations can we run a campaign towards that specific audience? And you mentioned something, media planners can just go home and just run any campaign. It is controlled today, and And how it's controlled, I would say it's data accuracy. Clients are becoming more smarter, way smarter. You have the big multinational companies and some of the local companies in Kuwait, in the UAE, and in Saudi. They're looking at more on how can I best target that audience, how can I best strategize my plans based on the KPIs I have for this particular campaign. That's exactly how, that's the conversation we're having. And as an AdTech professional, I do see that on day to day, whereby clients are looking at things on a smarter way. They're looking how I can best target that person now.
Now, do you think
Just
it's a,
Sorry,
do you
just
think
to
it's a bubble or evolution?
No, definitely an evolution because, again, with artificial intelligence, with what's happening today in the digital world, we're becoming more accurate, more precise. Yes, it used to be easier where we just set the plan, everything is set and ready, we launch the campaigns and that's it. And we just sit back and monitor and evaluate our performance, add, remove, and adjust accordingly. But today, with the benefit of artificial intelligence coming in, with the data analytics, we're becoming more precise, DMPs in place, so that we can create clusters, we can generate this data, we can start building more sort of lookalikes. We're now becoming more accurate, more efficient. We're lessening the waste that's going on. It's not all about mass targeting anymore. If I want teenagers, if I want women, if I want, we can split the data in any way we want, fragment it into the smallest bits, and specifically target these people. So in one aspect, it's become harder to reach our audience, but at the same time, there is a benefit where we're becoming very precise. The content is becoming very targeted. We're talking the language that they want to receive. It's no longer we're pushing and forcing them to listen to us. We have to react to it.
I think also the push-pull strategy also
Definitely.
helps, rather than just, before it just was a push
Yes,
strategy.
it's no longer the brand-centric markets
Yeah.
today. It's more of the consumer-centric.
The
It's what they
interaction.
want. They are willing to listen. They're going to listen. It's no more we're pushing that.
I think the
information to them.
interaction helps a lot.
Definitely.
Yeah, and
Zia.
because digital is measurable, so people they feel like more comfortable advertiser to spend on something measurable, so they can see the results. What they will get if they spend like $100,000 on this platform, they will get the ROI. Everything is measurable and everything is clear, rather than just on traditional media where they used to plan based on research company conducting researches and what people were saying that they're watching TV or reading this newspaper or that newspaper. So digital is more about what people are actually doing, what they were doing. So you can target them based on their actual behavior, what they were reading to, what they are like checking. You can, for example, on digital, you can retarget users who are like visiting a specific website. They showed interest on buying a car, so you can send them another ad to show them that, yeah, buy this car and buy that. It is more like clear and measurable, and you can take more, for users to take more actions.
Yeah, I like your
It's
emphasis.
become timely
Yeah.
today. It's become relevant in real time. It's
Yeah,
no more
this is
that-
what I like about that, the
yes.
digitalization is you know the real time, you can measure it, while the traditional media, you have to go through research. So this is, I think, is a plus for digitizing and going through different platforms and knowing exactly how you can measure all these platforms.
But just want to add something. Today, traditional media is also being automated.
Yeah.
So TV producers out there,
Okay.
you still have hope, right? The thing is, with the rise of programmatic and automation, things are becoming more efficient, yet effective. And with the rise of efficiency in buying and selling media, you tend to realize that there is a very big discrepancy on what's right and what's wrong. If I should do traditional or I should do online. And that's the wrong question to ask. What's relevant for my client? That's
Yeah.
what we need to ask. Or how can I best target that user? Data management platforms are becoming a big, they're booming out there in the region. And we've been working with DMPs for over 2 years since the establishment of the business in 2014. And gathering data on people is super difficult, yet you need some accuracy from the right publishers. So in a nutshell, I'm I'm coming from a supply background, and our business revolves around what's the right supply. We work with key publications across the regions, from North Africa to GCC to the Levant region. And the first 14 months of our business, where we were actively attacking publishers and talking to them, there's a big controversy of us asking them, where are you buying that traffic from? How are you buying the traffic? Why that traffic? Which channels of traffic? I mean, they look at, like companies look at the rankings of the best, highest level of traffic, but that's not enough. You can buy cheap traffic and yet get really bad data, bad campaigns.
Yeah.
And now agencies will say, yeah, I'm not performing. You're not performing, so I'll just remove it from the media plan. So now it's no longer about what's the volume of the inventory. It's choosing the right inventory, and
Yeah.
that's the key discussion that we should be
Again,
speaking
which
to.
goes back to the
Which goes back-
analysis.
Exactly,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. Okay, now we're seeing the digital world and how they're worth of billions of dollars, although they're all intangible. What really makes them worth those billions of dollars? And they're increasing more and more. So I think as we go, maybe we'll start with Ziad and
I think the idea is very important. So, for example, like Uber, like coming up with a smart idea, brilliant idea this is the cost of such an idea is very expensive. Plus the revenue that you're getting by generating revenue from this application, and the potential revenue that you're gonna get from this kind of application. So coming up with a good idea and potential to make revenue out of this idea, and the growth that you're going to expect in the coming future, and have a proper strategy how to increase your traffic year on year, and how to increase your income year on year in order to become really a strong and appropriate app or asset.
It's not about the tangible assets anymore. It's not about the actual. In a way, it's all about this hidden benefits of brands or companies or apps that are being produced today. Unfortunately, there's no proper bench as it used to be before, where something is evaluated based on 1, 2, 3 factors. Today, we're looking at so much value that is hidden in these brands or companies or apps that are coming up. And pretty much there isn't that sort of clean-cut evaluation criteria.
Even criteria, because we can see children.
It's the content that they're producing, it's the engagement that they're having, it's the people that are committed to such brands or apps and users and followers. These are all sort of hidden values that today are very hard to sort of know whether this is valued at X versus that, if I have the right content, if I have the right engagement. It's beyond the actual fixed assets of companies.
We've heard of small kids bringing up, developing new apps.
Yes.
And they're millionaires right now. So again, where can you elaborate on that?
One word.
Data.
Excellent. And second of all, ease, practicality.
Yeah.
Making things, and as I said, we discussed artificial intelligence.
So digitization has helped everything
Definitely.
to.
I mean, why should I now, for example, call a taxi, and whereas I can just use Kareem or Uber or any other company that is out there in every nation? It's just data is very powerful. Data is worth billions. That's why today you can target the right user at the right time at the right environment. So
Okay,
that costs money.
Sometimes being very precise. Again,
Exactly.
You're giving them what they want. Today, if I'm looking for the taxi service, it's something that I have created to sort of answer that need. It's no longer, okay, I'm going to build something that no one's looking for, no one really wants to use, and I'm putting it out there. Today, again, it's all about coming back to what the consumer wants. And if this is what they want, and definitely I'm producing that.
Okay, well, how about the idea of when they say that people don't need to buy cars anymore? It's going to be a carpool, and you don't need to drive your car anymore. It's going to be automated. So again, where does that take us? Whether it's a car industry, whether it's owning your own car, and...
I would say you just have to look at every market by itself. I mean,
you cannot just...
if you ask my opinion, carpooling in the Middle East won't work.
Exactly.
That's my opinion, all right?
We need to show
Humble,
off.
my very humble opinion. When I went to the States, yes,
Yeah.
it actually worked. I mean, Uber there, you do carpooling. It's amazing. You meet a lot of people, interaction. But I don't think I'll be doing that in Dubai. I don't think so. I don't think so. But if it does, great. But it's not about digitalization works very well, right? Machine taking over will work, definitely. But discussing what is efficient, what is not efficient. Data, for example, if you want to talk about data, today you can target users that are more likely to buy a Cadillac Escalade versus a Honda Civic. That data is worth billions, right? You can go to those competitors, advertisers in the room will be very happy. You can do that today. That's why it's worth billions. And machines, it's a very big controversy, right? And we don't need to discuss this, in that panel, for instance, because it's an ongoing discussion, and I agree with you, that's the future. But taking over our businesses might, but I think today we should really focus on is how digital is adding value, and that dollar sign you were mentioning is the data behind it.
How about the 3D printing?
It's already there.
Are we going to change from what we own to 3D printing?
It has to. Oh, sorry.
I don't actually. It's gonna help in the logistic way. Like instead of like shipping products, it will facilitate the shipping, the process. So every company might have, like, for example, 3D printers in their company, like sharing parts, sharing, like, for example, automotive. Instead of shipping like engine from Taiwan or somewhere like from the US, they can like produce their own engine in Dubai and then ship it across the neighbor countries.
Even at consumer level, even for you want to buy, you don't have to buy clothes, just
you can also, like, for
do it
example,
through
buy
printing.
When you're implementing it in the right manner, definitely it's a plus. It's saving so many people so much trouble. Definitely. It comes with its efficiencies, with its benefits, and again, if it's used in the proper manner. But nevertheless, you always still require that human element to feed in what humans want, the feelings, the requirements, the needs that a machine would not be able to come up with or identify, as opposed to having that human factor involved. But again, when we go back, and we've talked about this so many times, in data, digital is coming in, it's saving us so much wastage, it's becoming so precise, it's becoming so relevant and in the moment, but at the same time, it's how we use that data.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's very hard to find companies or clients taking in this data, analyzing the data, and reusing this data. It's always about what I think the hype is, what is it that is today currently happening that I want to join that wave, as opposed to coming back and saying, well, these are my clients, these are my consumers, this is how I want to approach them, and how can I be relevant and to the point with them? How can I give them something that they want, as opposed to what I'm pushing for them?
Okay. Since we're running out of time, I just have the last question. In terms of native advertising, what do you think is native advertising, and where do we draw the line in terms of native advertising?
One thing now when we're discussing it, regarding the native advertising, is one thing I came across earlier reading about it. And I like the definition of how they approach the native advertising. Pretty much, native advertising is useful and it's important, and it's how it's being used is what's important about it. It's not just putting out your content for people to pick up, whether it's relevant or not, whether it serves the purpose or not. And this is one of the biggest misuses. When we speak about native advertising, yes, we need to use it. Yes, it attracts people. It's more like the first date of how you want to impress someone. You're very precise, you're very targeted, you are hitting on all the points that would attract the other person. And from there on, this is where the challenge becomes. It's content marketing, and it's how relevant you are. That's the relationship part, if you want.
Do you think it's being misused?
In many ways, yes.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. Native advertising is going to lure people in. And then you have to work on building that relationship with them. growing that relationship, always continuing to lure them in, to keep them interested, to keep giving them what they're looking for. And that's where you have to start building the proper content, the relevant content, serving it at the right time so that the other person, the receiving end, keeps receiving that content.
Just want to add something. Advertisers today are looking for new channels to pass the message, right? And people or advertisers are running away from intrusive ads. Audiences are running away from intrusive ads. So native advertising is the right place to do so. However, you need to look at campaign objectives, KPIs. You can't just run any ad on native. So a native ad is an ad that is embedded within a content, be it a video, be it contextual, be it within a page. Now, in my opinion, when I run campaigns on native, all right, I run performance campaigns. I wouldn't run branding campaigns. At the end of the day, you're attracting users to click on that specific suggested article rather than being a normal ad. But it depends. And if it's the right move, it all depends on the campaign KPI, objective, client, industry, the content of that article, of that ad, or the industry is very important to understand, and the channel. Where am I running this ad? You can't just run it like that on all the publications. You just need to choose the right publications at the same time.
But it's very important to show to the user, to the reader, that this content is paid for to look more ethical. You cannot just post an article without being like sponsored by X client. And the good thing about native is the bridging between the gap between the publisher and the brand, working together to come up with a piece of content which is really relevant to the user and placing it in a place that really user trust and they rely on. So as long as this article is relevant to the user, it should be like it is an important content for them. Yeah.
It's more on the credibility.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't be relying on native alone, but then again, it's the way you're attracting people, you're being relevant within the content of where you're publishing it, you're looking at credible platforms to do it, but then that's your attraction point. And from there on, that's where you've already captured that client and you want to continue working with them. You want to continue giving them more information about your brands, growing the relationship with your consumers. Again, it's the client-consumer relationship. They're important as a first step, but you have to build on the relationship moving forward.
Are we out of time? Yeah, okay. And no time for questions? Unless there are any questions. Are there any questions? Yeah, I think we're fine. Yeah, I would like to thank my guests. I think they were very informative and they have added really a lot of benefits and values in terms of the advertising technologies and trends and where we're going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.